I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with an amazing author. Her name is Angela Dellafiora Ford. She presents a heartwarming anthology in a collection of children's stories. That's the name of the book, A Collection of Children's Stories. Through the tales of adorable animals and their human counterparts, she weaves narratives of love, adventure, and the simple joys of life. And she has created very memorable characters, including one of my favorites, Horatio, the baby elephant who loved to go to tea parties. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Book Savvy International for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Angela, thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Loved your books. Let's start out by talking about Horatio. How did you dream up this great character, and why does he like to go to tea parties so much?
I don't know how I can tell you stories of how I got inspiration from my other characters, but I don't know how Horatio came about. I was in my early 30s. And sometimes, you think about your past. They say everything is in the mind or the subconscious. And I was thinking about my past one time, and I can remember my father taking us to I don't know if it was a circus or a fair, but an elephant put his trunk over the fence and it was picking me up. And I remembered that. Well, I don't know why I thought of that. And I guess my father was afraid, but everybody was saying, "Oh, look, the elephant's picking her up." So I think that's how that story came about. It was like, hooray. Okay. And then when I wrote the story, as I was typing it, when I took, and this was an old-fashioned typewriter, wasn't a computer. When I took the paper out of the typewriter, when I looked at the word, I thought I was typing Horace, but I actually typed Horatio, which is a better sounding name.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I got the idea for tea parties, and then I think I had a friend that kind of helped me with the end. And I don't know if that just opened something inside of me, because soon after that, I received like the inspiration for the dog story. And then the other stories were taken. Actually, I had pet dogs, and they were giving me the inspiration for the other stories. I live in the country in Maryland, and we had a black lab, and we had just moved to the country from Washington, D.C., and we decided to go to the local fair. So we went to the local fair, and I'm looking at these cows, and I said, "Oh my God, that looks like my dog Daisy." So that's how that came about. And I don't know. And I can remember my mother wearing a goofy hat when I was a kid. So somehow it just comes together. So I don't know how it comes together. It's just
grabbing bits and pieces from here and there, your experience, your imagination, what you thought happened, what did happen. Well, what matters is that you created great tales out of these characters that you created. So you've been writing children's stories now for pretty much your whole adult life, it sounds like, right?
I started in my early 30s. I was working for the government. It takes a hard time. It takes a long time to get them published, because I guess the children's market is oversaturated. So even when I tried to go into traditional publishing, it was a time when the publishing houses, there was a time when they were giving a lot of money to a lot of authors to write. And I guess that wasn't working out for them financially. So they kind of held back. So I was published by another publisher, but I'm glad that I have Book Savvy, because they really work with you. They created a beautiful book for me. We were able to get the characters in color online. The first book, I didn't have colored illustrations. And I think that they've done a wonderful job for me, and that they work to make the book a success. So I'm thankful for that. And I'm also working on getting the stories into animation.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So that's news. You're breaking it this hour. This just handed me, Angela has made her books into animations. So that's going to happen. That's great. Wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. So it must be thrilling to see them come to life, right?
Yes. And I talk to other people in the industry, and everything just, I guess, takes time. It's just hard. I mean, everything just takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Particularly in the creative arts, things go at their own pace. What matters is not the race, but where you get to at the end. So hopefully a lot of kids are watching, reading, and enjoying your stories. That's for sure. Have you tested these out on kids? Are these
I, the,
kid-approved stories? Tell me about
the
that.
kids, the kids love them. It's like I've got to get to the parents to buy the book.
Yeah.
And that's hard, that's difficult. But once the books reach the children, they love it. I can remember I think it was July, the end of June or July, I was up in New York City. I was on a train coming back to DC, and I was sitting with a family, a husband and a wife with a little baby and a little boy, and the boy was just restless. So what I did is I sat him beside me, and I had read the story, and then I showed him my first story of the animation. He fell right to sleep, and when we got off of the plane, he took my hand. He wanted me to walk him out to the plane. So I feel like I made a friend. So he must have liked it.
That's great. That's great. So what children have you read? Have you read at a local library? Have you read
Oh,
some
yeah.
relatives? Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, sure. All the local libraries in the county where I live. I've done book signings. I've done book signings, especially on Saturdays, so that the kids can come in and get the book. I've traveled to New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland. I'm from Pennsylvania, so up there I did from Western Pennsylvania I did a lot. So yes, it's always marketing the book, marketing the book. They say that even the best well-known writers and writers that have made a lot of money writing, they still have to market their work.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully having fun in the meantime, reading to those kids and meeting kids and seeing their reaction. That's got to be part of the compensation as well, the joy of that. What is there a message or a moral you like to put in your stories?
I didn't do it. I really was just writing, and I don't have children myself. So I was just writing. And I know that I have a lot of cousins that are relatives that are school teachers, and a lot of mothers, and they would come in and well, I hope it has good values. And I'm not geared that way.
Right.
But finally, when I had somebody that I worked with read them, and he said, Angela, you're teaching children social values.
Great.
Good social values. And and a lot of times, another thing people always ask me, well, what age is this for? Younger children, older children? So when I was working with my producer in London, I said, don't put any age, let everybody enjoy them. Yeah. Well, then we were kind of getting feedback. Well, this is for younger children. So then we went out and we said, well, this is for younger children. And then it came back and they said, look, you have a beginning, you have a middle, you have a crisis point, and you have an ending. That is for older children. So I put it out there like, I want everybody to enjoy my stories. Sure. I don't care if they're 99 years old. So that's my take on it. But it's people want to put you in that box.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. And these are stories for children of all ages. Little kids will get something out of it. Older children will get something different out of it. The parents reading it will get something different out of it still. And that's great on the educational process because there's a lot to unpack there. So the little kids will have stuff to learn because they like to reread books. Kids not only like to hear a story, they like to hear the same story time and time again. So that's how they learn. One of the stories I loved, and let's talk about it a little bit to give the folks at home a sample of what your work is all about, is the love story of Pork Chop and Polka Dot.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, I'll tell you, I was living in DC, and I've actually dreamt that story. I could see it. I was watching the story in my mind. But what it is, there's a special dog named Pork Chop, and he has a very unique sense of smell, and he lives in the city with the firemen because he can smell a fire. Well, every time he smells a fire, he rings up, he has a whistle that he blows, and the firemen get together and they they go to the fire. Now, Pork Chop is considered special. He's the hero. Everybody loves him. So he received a call one morning from the mayor of the city, and the mayor said, Pork Chop, come and meet this other special dog. Well, it was Princess Polkadotkovich, and she was a princess from a faraway land. And when Pork Chop saw her, he just fell in love with her. Well, he wanted to spend time with her, but she was too busy. She was going to fashion shows, she was going to museums, she was attending tea parties, and she just didn't have time for Pork Chop. Well, one early evening, as Pork Chop was he smelled a fire. Well, what he realized, it was at the city hotel where Pork Chop was staying. And so they hurried up, him and the firemen hurried up to the fire, and he could see Pork Chop, he could see the flames in her hotel room. So he went up the ladder and he carried her down to safety. And of course, they fell in love and got married. But we have more Pork Chop stories. We have a story about his friend Shorty, and then we also they have to have puppies. So we have 6 puppies, and then we have one story where everybody goes to the carnival, and the kid and the little puppies get into trouble. Exactly. So yeah. So Horatio, we have more Horatio stories too.
These are great, wonderful examples of the terrific content you'll find within the pages of a collection of children's stories. It is written by Angela Dellafiora Ford. It is an amazing, heartwarming anthology. Stories that seem classic, that seem timeless, that your children will love and fall in love with. Angela, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I enjoyed myself. Thank you.
I enjoyed it as well. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.